The stars had never seemed so close. Yuna stood at the massive window of the alien station, watching ships from dozens of worlds drift past like strange fish in an ocean of darkness. She wore her best uniform, the one with Earth's flag on the shoulder. Behind her, Minho and Haijin checked their presentation one more time. They had practiced for months, but now that they were here, everything felt different. This was first contact. Humanity's first meeting with the galactic community. Yuna had dreamed of this moment since she was a child looking up at the night sky. She never imagined it would feel so cold. The doors opened with a sound like wind chimes. A tall alien entered, its skin the color of deep purple stone, its eyes like black mirrors. "The council will see you now," it said in perfect English. The translation device worked flawlessly. That should have made Yuna feel better, but it did not. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Other aliens passed them, some stopping to stare. Yuna heard whispers in languages the translator could not catch. She held her head high and kept walking. The council chamber was enormous. 12 platforms rose in a circle, each one holding a different species. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Yuna's mind struggled to understand what she was seeing. At the highest platform sat a creature covered in scales that shimmered like oil. Its voice boomed through the chamber. "I am Prelate Vexram of the Korthon Empire. We speak for the Galactic Council." The creature's eyes fixed on Yuna. "You are from the planet Earth, the world of violence and chaos." Yuna felt her stomach tighten, but she stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Yuna, representing all of humanity. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Not friendly laughter, the kind that made Yuna's skin crawl. Peace. Another council member spoke, this one resembling a floating jellyfish made of light. "Your world has known 300 wars in the last 1,000 years. You build weapons that can destroy your own planet. You fight over resources, beliefs, and borders. You are a threat to yourselves and to all civilized species." Minho stepped forward, his hand shaking slightly as he activated the holographic display. "We have made mistakes, yes, but we have also learned from them. In the last century, we have united our world. We have eliminated most diseases. We have begun to heal our planet. Please, look at what we have achieved." Images filled the air. Cities powered by clean energy, the International Space Station, the Mars colony, medical advances, art and music from every culture on Earth. Haijin spoke about humanity's science, their literature, their capacity for growth and change. The council watched in silence. When the presentation ended, Vexram leaned forward. "You show us pictures of temporary peace. We have seen species like yours before. Young, aggressive, emotional. They always destroy themselves in the end. Always." "Then help us not to," Yuna said, her voice steady despite her fear. "Share your knowledge with us. Guide us. Isn't that what an advanced civilization should do?" "No," Vexram said simply. "What an advanced civilization should do is protect the galaxy from contamination." The word hung in the air like poison. Contamination. "The council has made its decision," another member announced. "Earth and its solar system will be placed under quarantine. A barrier will be erected around your star. No travel in or out. No communication. You will remain there until you either evolve beyond your violent nature or destroy yourselves. Either way, the galaxy will be safe." Yuna felt the floor drop away beneath her. "You cannot do this. We have done nothing wrong. We came here in peace." "You came here as a threat," Vexram replied. "Your very existence endangers the stability we have maintained for 10,000 years. This is not a punishment. This is protection. For everyone. How long?" Haijin asked, her voice barely a whisper. "How long will the quarantine last? Until you are ready? Perhaps 1,000 years. Perhaps never." Vexram stood and the other council members followed. "You have 1 solar week to return all your people to your system. After that, the barrier activates. Anyone outside will be left outside. The council has spoken." They left. Just like that, humanity's future was decided, and the beings who decided it simply walked away. Minho punched the wall, his knuckles coming away bloody. Haijin sat down hard, tears streaming down her face. Yuna stood frozen, her mind racing through options, arguments, pleas. But she knew. The decision was final. 1 week later, Captain Junho stood on the bridge of the UNS Horizon at the edge of the solar system. He had volunteered to be the last ship back, to make sure no one was left behind. Now he watched as the alien vessels moved into position around their entire solar system. A network of ships and devices spanning billions of kilometers. "Captain, we need to move now," his first officer said. "They are powering up." Junho nodded slowly. He took one last look at the stars beyond, at the galaxy humanity would no longer be part of. Then he gave the order. "Take us home." The horizon turned and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, reality itself began to shimmer and twist. The barrier rose like a wall of invisible glass, sealing humanity away from the rest of the universe. In the council chamber, Vexram watched the barrier complete. "Another dangerous species contained," he said with satisfaction. "In a few centuries, we will return to find them gone, destroyed by their own hands, as they all do." The other council members agreed. They congratulated themselves on their wisdom and foresight. They returned to their comfortable lives, secure in their superiority. None of them considered that they might be wrong. None of them imagined what humanity would become in the silence they had forced upon them. None of them understood the greatest truth about humans. Tell them they cannot do something. They will find a way to prove you wrong. The barrier hummed with energy that no one on Earth could see, but everyone could feel. It was there, always there, a cage around their entire solar system. Some people despaired. Some grew angry. But most did what humans had always done when faced with impossible odds. They got to work. Sora remembered the day the barrier went up. She was 7 years old, watching the news with her parents as the last ships came home. Her father held her hand and said, "They think we will give up. Let's show them what humans can do." Those words stayed with her for 300 years. Now, at the age of 307, Sora stood in the command center of the Solar Development Initiative. Through the windows, she could see Mars, no longer the red planet. Green spread across its surface, where terraforming had taken hold. Cities glowed in the twilight. Billions of people called Mars home now. "The Venus project is ahead of schedule," her assistant reported. "Another 50 years and it will be fully habitable." Sora nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the barrier, about the energy signature Jinwoo had finally decoded last year. 3 centuries of work, and they finally understood how the aliens had built their cage. Jinwoo worked in a laboratory, deep beneath the surface of the moon. His equipment filled rooms that stretched for kilometers. Some of his machines were so complex that only advanced artificial intelligence could operate them. He studied the barrier day and night, pulling it apart piece by piece in his calculations. "It's beautiful in a way," he told his research team during a late-night session. "They used quantum entanglement on a scale we never thought possible. But the principle is simple once you see it. And if you understand how it works, you can work around it." "Can we bring it down?" asked Nari, who had joined him from her medical research facility. "Maybe," Jinwoo said. "But more importantly, we can use what we learned to build our own technology. See, they trapped us in here thinking we would stagnate, but they gave us the greatest physics laboratory in the universe. We can experiment with technologies they would never risk testing. We have nothing to lose." Nari smiled. She understood. Her own work had pushed boundaries the old council species would never dare cross. Human lifespans now stretched for centuries. Disease was almost eliminated. The human body could be enhanced, repaired, improved in ways that seemed like magic a few hundred years ago. "The generation that saw the stars still lives," she said quietly. "Ambassador Yuna asks about you often. She wants to know if we will see them again in her lifetime." "Tell her yes," Jinwoo said. "Tell her we will see the stars again, and when we do, we will be ready." On Earth, in the unified government complex that replaced the old United Nations, Yoonji worked on a different kind of preparation. She was compiling the record. Every achievement humanity had made behind the barrier. Every advancement, every artwork, every act of peace and cooperation. When humanity rejoined the galaxy, they would have proof. Proof that the Council was wrong. The documents filled massive databanks. 300 years of history. 0 wars between human nations. 0 famines. 0 preventable deaths. Problems still existed, of course. Humans still argued and disagreed. But they had learned to solve their conflicts without violence. They had to. The barrier forced them to face a simple truth. They only had each other. How many pages now? Asked her colleague, a young woman who had chosen to take the name Hope.
Millions.
Young G replied, but I want more than data. I want stories. I want them to see who we have become. She interviewed people from every world in the solar system. Miners on Mercury who had built cities in the shadow of the sun. Farmers on the moons of Jupiter who grew food in ways Earth never imagined. Artists who created beauty in zero gravity. Children who had never seen the barrier but knew the stories of the day it rose. One story stayed with her. An old man on Mars, one of the original colonists, told her about planting the first tree in Martian soil. The Council thought we would destroy ourselves, he said. But we built gardens instead. We built homes. We built a future. And we did it together because we had no other choice. Admiral Doyon commanded the fleet that did not exist according to the Council. Thousands of ships, each one a masterpiece of human engineering. They had taken the technology the aliens thought was beyond human reach and made it their own. Then they made it better. He was the great-great-grandson of Captain Junho, the man who had brought the last ship home. The command of the fleet had passed down through his family, each generation adding to the work. Now Doyon stood in the flagship's command center, watching training exercises that covered millions of kilometers. They are ready, his tactical officer reported. Every crew, every ship. We have run the simulations 10,000 times. And if the Council attacks when the barrier falls, Doyen asked, then we defend. But we defend without killing. We disable their ships, we protect our people, but we do not become the monsters they think we are. Doyen looked at the tactical displays showing his fleet. Each ship was named after someone who had believed in humanity's future. The Yuna, the Junho, the Horizon. Names that carried hope across the centuries. The barrier has been up for 300 years, he said. Jinwoo says it will come down in the next 50. Maybe sooner. We need to be ready not just to fight, but to prove we do not want to. And if they do not listen? Doyon was quiet for a long moment. Then we make them listen. Not with weapons. With truth. On the far side of the barrier, the galaxy had moved on. The Council barely remembered the planet Earth. It was just another quarantined world, another species that would probably be extinct by now. They had bigger concerns. Their empire was growing, their power expanding. They never thought to check on the humans. If they had, they would have seen something impossible. They would have seen a civilization that thrived in isolation. They would have seen technology advancing at a rate that broke every model they had. They would have seen humans preparing for a return that the Council never imagined could happen. But they did not look. Hubris is a kind of blindness. In her office on Earth, Yoonji received a message from Jinwoo. The barrier's power fluctuations were increasing. The aliens had built it to last 1,000 years, but they had not maintained it. No one was watching it anymore. It was breaking down, slowly but surely. How long? She asked. 50 years. Maybe less. Maybe much less. Yanji looked at the calendar. She would live to see it. Thanks to Nara's work, the entire first generation would live to see it. They would go back to the stars. They would face the Council that had imprisoned them, and they would show the galaxy what humanity had become in the silence. The Council chamber looked the same as it had 300 years ago, but everything else had changed. Overlord Krenthor sat where Prelate Vexram once ruled, his scales now a darker purple, his eyes harder and colder. Around him, the representatives of the 12 species argued about taxes and tribute, about which colony worlds owed what to the central government. No one talked about exploration anymore. No one discussed science or art or the betterment of civilization. Those days were gone, replaced by endless debates about money and power. The mining colonies on Turtix V refused to pay the increased levies, announced the Korthon finance minister. They claim the amounts are impossible to meet. Krenthar's laugh was sharp and cruel. Then send the fleet. Take what they owe, and take their leaders as well. Let them learn the price of defiance. This was how the council ruled now. Through fear, through force. The ideals Vexram had claimed to protect had rotted away, revealing the truth underneath. The council had never been about peace or wisdom. It had always been about control. On a colony world called Tellus. In a city that sprawled across 3 continents, resistance fighters met in secret. They called themselves the Free Voices, and they came from a dozen different species. Minji led them, a young woman whose ancestors had been quarantined by the council 2,000 years ago. Her people had not survived. She had found the records, hidden deep in council archives. 17 species quarantined. 17 species extinct. The council's not protecting anyone, she told her followers. They are executing anyone who threatens their power. They did it to my ancestors. They did it to 16 other species, and they did it to the humans. The humans are probably gone by now, said Tarek, a veteran fighter from the resistance. 300 years in quarantine. No species survives that. Maybe, Minji said. Or maybe they are like us. Still fighting? Still hoping. She pulled up the old records, the ones she had stolen from council databases. Earth's file showed the barrier still active, still containing the solar system. But there was no monitoring, no observation. The council had sealed them away and forgotten about them completely. They're going to open the barrier, Minji said suddenly, reading through the newer documents. In 2 years? Some kind of ceremony to show what happens to species who defy the council. They are planning to broadcast it across the galaxy. Warning, Tarek said grimly. Or an opportunity, Minji replied. Across the galaxy, the council's military had grown massive but weak. Generals were appointed not for skill, but for how much they paid in bribes. Soldiers trained on parade grounds instead of in real combat. The fleet looked impressive. Thousands of ships, with powerful weapons, but it had not fought a real war in centuries. The last conflicts had been putting down unarmed colonists. Commander Vorsh stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, looking at reports that made him sick. Half his crew was underqualified. Maintenance was months behind schedule because funds had been redirected to building a new palace for Krenthar. Weapon systems that should have been upgraded decades ago still ran on obsolete technology. Sir, the inspection team from council headquarters is here, his aide announced. Vorsh straightened his uniform and prepared to lie about his ship's readiness. Everyone lied now. It was the only way to survive in the council's military. Tell the truth, and you would be blamed for problems you had no power to fix. Lie, and you might live long enough to retire. The inspection team did not care about the truth anyway. They took their bribes, signed their forms, and moved on to the next ship. The council fleet was a beautiful facade covering rot. Meanwhile, in the council's historical archives, Professor Hayen made a discovery that changed everything. He was human by descent, his ancestors from a generation ship that had left Earth before the barrier went up. Technically, he was not from the quarantine zone. Technically, he was a council citizen. But he had never forgotten where he came from. The old records were buried deep, classified for centuries. But Hayon had spent years building connections, trading favors, slowly working his way deeper into the archives. What he found turned his blood cold. 17 species quarantined before Earth, all of them young, developing, showing promise, and all of them extinct within 500 years. But when Hayen dug deeper, he found something the council had hidden. The species had not destroyed themselves. The barriers had killed them. The quarantine fields were not just walls. They slowly drained energy from the contained solar systems, making technology fail, making life harder. It was designed to create pressure, to make the quarantined species turn on themselves. It was not a test. It was murder dressed up as protection. Hyun copied the files to a hidden drive. and sent encrypted messages to the few people he trusted. One went to Minji and the Free Voices, another one to scattered resistant cells across the galaxy, and one, daringly, he aimed at Earth itself, coated in a tight beam that he prayed could penetrate the barrier. He did not know if it would reach them. But they deserved to know the truth. Back in the council chamber, Krenthor announced his plans for the great ceremony. 2 years from now, we will deactivate the Earth's barrier. We will show the galaxy what becomes of species who think themselves equal to the council. We will broadcast images of a dead world, a cautionary tale. The other council members applauded. It would be good for morale, they said. A reminder of the council's wisdom, and after, asked one representative, "What do we do with the dead system?" "Strip it for resources," Krenthor replied casually. The third planet supposedly had rare elements. Might as well make use of them. They talked about Earth like it was already an empty shell, like the humans were already gone. It never occurred to them to check. It never occurred to them that they might be wrong. The council had been powerful for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to face a real challenge. They had grown soft, corrupt, convinced of their own superiority. They made decisions based on assumptions that were 300 years old. They never adapted, never changed, never grew. In 2 years, they would learn their mistake. In 2 years, the barrier would fall, and the galaxy would see what humanity had become. But the council was not preparing for contact with an advanced civilization. They were preparing for a funeral. Minji stood on a rooftop in the colony city, looking up at stars that seemed too far away. Somewhere out there, beyond distances her mind could barely comprehend, humans might still be alive. Might still be fighting like she was fighting. "We are going to Earth," she told Tarek. "When they drop that barrier, we are going to be there. Not to mourn, to witness. Witness what? Either the council's greatest crime," she said quietly, "or their greatest mistake." She did not know which one she hoped for more. But in 2 years, everyone would know the truth. The silence was almost over. The council fleet arrived at the edge of the quarantine zone with all the ceremony of a funeral procession. Thousands of ships spread across space, their formations perfect, their hulls polished to shine in the light of distant stars. Media drones from every council world positioned themselves for the best views. This would be broadcast to trillions of citizens across the galaxy. Overlord Krenthor stood aboard his flagship, the Pride of Korthon, wearing ceremonial robes that cost more than some planets produced in a year. Around him, his advisors prepared speeches about the wisdom of the council and the tragic fate of dangerous species. "Begin the deactivation sequence," Krenthor commanded. The barrier had stood for 302 years. Now slowly the ancient machinery began to power down. The invisible wall that had surrounded Earth's solar system started to fade. It took hours. The energy dissipating in waves that rippled through space. Media commentators filled the silence with speculation about what they would find. A dead world, certainly. Perhaps ruins. Maybe nothing at all if humanity had managed to destroy their planet completely. No one suggested that humans might have survived. That thought was too absurd to consider. Admiral Doyon watched the barrier fall from the bridge of the UN's determination. He had waited his entire life for this moment. 300 years of preparation. 300 years of work. Now the cage was opening, and the council was about to learn the truth. "All ships, stand by," he commanded. "Let them see us, but do not fire unless fired upon." The barrier vanished completely. For a moment, there was nothing but empty space where it had been. The council fleet relaxed, preparing to move into the solar system to document the expected devastation. Then the human fleet appeared. They had been waiting just inside the barrier's edge. Hidden by Earth's own stealth technology, now they revealed themselves. Not a few dozen ships, not even a few hundred. Thousands of vessels, each one sleek and deadly. Each one broadcasting power signatures that made council sensors scream warnings. Captain Yugen commanded the forward group of the human fleet. She had trained for this moment in simulations that numbered in the millions. Now, she activated the communication systems and broadcast on every frequency the council used. This is Captain Eugen of the United Nations Ship Determination. We speak for humanity and all the free people of Earth's solar system. We come in peace. We come seeking dialogue. And we come prepared to defend our right to exist. Silence filled the communications channels. The Council fleet hung motionless in space, unable to process what they were seeing. Dead species did not build fleets. Extinct civilizations did not hail you with technology more advanced than your own. On the pride of Korthon, chaos erupted. Advisors shouted conflicting reports. Sensors showed impossible readings. The media drones broadcast everything to a galaxy that watched in shock. This is a trick, Krenthor snarled. Some kind of illusion. It must be. But his instruments showed the truth. Those were real ships. Real humans. Very much alive. Ambassador Yunji stepped in front of the cameras aboard the Determination. She was 340 years old now, her body sustained by technologies the Council had never imagined. She wore the same uniform Yuna had worn at first contact. The Earth flag on her shoulder faded, but still proud. "Overlord Krenthar," she said, her voice calm and clear. 300 years ago, your predecessor quarantined my people because he believed we were too violent, too dangerous to join the galactic community. We have spent those 3 centuries proving him wrong. Behind her, holographic displays activated, visible to every ship in both fleets. Images of humanity's achievements flowed past. Worlds transformed. Cities built. Art created. Problems solved. 300 years of peace and progress, documented in painful detail. We eliminated war among ourselves, Yungi continued. We cured diseases your people still suffer from. We extended life, expanded consciousness, and built a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. We did this alone behind the wall you built. And we did it because you forced us to rely only on ourselves. She paused, letting her words sink in across the galaxy. Trillions watched. Trillions heard. We do not ask for your approval. We do not need your permission. We simply request what should have been ours 3 centuries ago. The right to exist freely in this galaxy, the right to be left in peace. Krenthor's face twisted with rage and humiliation. The galaxy was watching him. The galaxy was seeing his predecessor proven wrong. The galaxy was seeing humans not as monsters but as victims of Council arrogance. You think your little fleet impresses me? He shouted into the communication system. The Council commands millions of ships across hundreds of worlds. You are nothing. We do not want to be impressive, Yanji replied quietly. We want to be left alone.
I'll never.
Krenthor screamed. You are an affront to everything the Council stands for. You should have died. You should have destroyed yourselves like all the others. The fact that you survived is proof that our quarantine failed. We will not make that mistake again. He turned to his fleet commander. Destroy them. Every ship. Every trace. Show the galaxy what happens to species who defy the Council. The fleet commander hesitated. His sensors were still screaming warnings about the human ship's capabilities. But Krenthar was the overlord. Orders were orders. All ships, the commander said reluctantly. Attack formation. Weapons free. The Council fleet, thousands strong, advanced on the human positions. It should have been a massacre. The Council had numbers, had experience, had weapons tested in 100 minor conflicts. They had no idea what they were facing, Admiral Taiyang. Humanity's tactical genius watched the Council fleet move into the trap he had spent 300 years perfecting. Every simulation, every war game, every training exercise had prepared him for this moment. All ships execute defense pattern Omega, he commanded. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Ships that the Council thought were scattered suddenly revealed a formation of impossible complexity. Weapons powered up, but not the kind Krenthor expected. The first Council ship to fire found its weapons disabled mid-shot. Electromagnetic pulses, precisely targeted, fried their systems without harming the crew. The second wave of ships had their shields collapse as human technology rewrote their defensive protocols in real time. The third wave simply stopped. their engines powered down by viruses that infiltrated their systems faster than their computers could react. In 15 minutes, 100 Council ships were disabled. In 30 minutes, 500. In an hour, the entire forward section of Krenthar's fleet was drifting helplessly. Crews unharmed, but ships completely non-functional. Not a single human ship had been scratched. Captain Eugen broadcast again. Her voice still calm, still peaceful. "We do not want to hurt you. We do not want to kill you. But we will not allow you to destroy us. Stand down, please." Krenthor watched his fleet fall apart, watched his weapons fail, watched humanity prove, beyond any doubt, that they had surpassed the Council in every way that mattered. "Retreat," he whispered. Then louder, "Retreat. All ships fall back." The Council fleet fled, leaving disabled vessels for humanity to rescue and repair. Media drones broadcast everything. The galaxy watched the mighty Council run from the species they had tried to eliminate. Aboard the Determination, Yunji allowed herself a small smile. "Send rescue teams to the disabled ships. Repair what we broke. Send them home safely, even after they tried to kill us." Eugen asked. "Especially then," Yunji replied. "We are not the monsters they thought we were. Let us prove it beyond all doubt." Across the galaxy, in the Free Voice's hidden base, Mingi watched the broadcast with tears streaming down her face. "They survived," she whispered. "They did not just survive. They won." In the Council chamber, representatives from 12 species sat in stunned silence, watching the same broadcasts, watching humanity's mercy, watching Krenthar's humiliation, and in the dark, one of them began to wonder, if the Council had been wrong about humans, what else had they been wrong about? Krenthar did not sleep for 3 days after the retreat. He paced his chambers aboard the Pride of Korthon, watching the broadcasts play over and over. The galaxy had seen the Council flee. They had seen humanity's strength. They had seen 300 years of arrogance collapse in a single hour. "We can still win this," his chief advisor insisted. "We have the full military might of 12 species, 10,000 ships. We mobilize everything. We crush them completely." "Did you not see what they did?" Krenthor shouted. "They disabled 500 ships without firing a weapon. Their technology is centuries beyond ours." "Then we find another way. We cannot let this stand. If we show weakness now, every colony world will rebel. Every subject species will think they can defy us." Krenthar knew the advisor was right. The Council's power rested on fear and the appearance of invincibility. Humanity had shattered that appearance. If he did not respond with overwhelming force, the entire empire would crumble. "Send the call," he said finally. "Every ship. Every world. We end humanity once and for all." The message went out across Council space. It was not a request. Worlds that refused would be punished. Species that hesitated would be made examples. This was total war, but the message did not reach only the Council's military. It reached the colonies. It reached the resistance. And it reached Professor Hayan, who had been waiting for this moment. Hayan released everything. 300 years of stolen files, hidden records, classified documents. He broadcast them across the galactic networks before the Council could stop him. The 17 species quarantined before humanity. The barriers designed to kill. The executions disguised as protection. Every crime, every lie, every act of tyranny the Council had committed in the name of peace. The galaxy read the truth, and the galaxy reacted. Minji stood before her resistance fighters. Thousands of them now, from dozens of species. The Council is mobilizing to destroy humanity, but they are also exposed. Their lies are public. Their crimes are known. We have one chance to end this tyranny forever. What can we do against their military? Tarek asked. We have a few hundred ships at best. We do not fight their military, Minji replied. We free their colonies. Every world they drain for taxes. Every species they enslave. Every system they control. When their empire is in flames, their military will have no choice but to turn back. The plan was simple and terrifying. coordinated uprisings across 200 colony worlds. Timed to begin the moment the Council fleet committed to attacking Earth. The Resistance had spent years building networks, smuggling weapons, preparing for a moment that might never come. Now the moment was here. Admiral Doyen did not want war. He had built his fleet to defend, not to attack. But Jinwu's intelligence network intercepted the Council's mobilization orders. 10,000 ships, armed with weapons designed to crack planets. Coming to Earth. Cannot fight that many, his tactical officer said. Even with our advantages, those numbers will overwhelm us eventually. We do not fight them in space, Doyen replied. He activated the system he had hoped never to use. Sora, bring the network online. Engineer Sora, now supervising from the Martian Command Center, smiled grimly. Solar Defense Network activating now. Let them come. For 300 years, humanity had turned their solar system into a fortress. Every asteroid, every moon, every planet had defensive stations hidden beneath their surfaces. Weapons platforms built with technology the Council could not imagine. An integrated network that turned the entire system into a single massive defensive grid. If the Council wanted Earth, they would have to fight the Sun itself. The Council fleet gathered at the edge of human space, 10,000 ships strong. Every species contributed their best vessels. Every world sent their warriors. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. Commander Vorsh stood on his bridge, looking at sensor readings that terrified him. The human solar system was not just defended, it was a weapon. He sent a private message to Krenthar, begging him to reconsider. The message was ignored. The fleet attacked. The battle lasted 3 months. Not because the Council was winning, but because they refused to retreat. Wave after wave of ships battered themselves against the solar defense network. Admiral Taiyang's fleet did not have to destroy them. The network did that automatically, targeting engines and weapons while leaving life support intact. Disabled Council ships drifted through space, crews alive but helpless. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Minji's resistance struck. Colony world after colony world rose up against Council rule. Governors fled. Garrisons surrendered. The empire that had stood for 10,000 years began to tear apart at the seams. The Council species watched their holdings vanish. They watched their tribute stop flowing. They watched their power crumble. One by one, they withdrew their ships from the assault on Earth. Calling them home to protect their own territories, Krenthar tried to hold them together through threats and promises. But it was too late. The truth was out. The lies were exposed. Species that had served the Council for millennia now saw their masters as tyrants, who had executed 17 civilizations for the crime of being different. The Korthon Empire, drained of resources and facing rebellion on every front, collapsed first. Krenthar's own guards abandoned him when the pay stopped coming. He died alone in his chambers, not in glorious battle but forgotten and powerless. Killed by someone whose name history would not remember, the other Council species followed quickly. Some peacefully, transitioning to new governments. Others in blood and fire. The empire that had ruled the galaxy crumbled in less than a year. Ambassador Yunji watched it happen from Earth. Her heart heavy despite their victory. She had not wanted this. She had wanted only to be left in peace. But the Council had made their choice. They had come with violence, and violence had destroyed them. We need to help, she told Admiral Doyen. The galaxy is in chaos. Species are suffering. We cannot just watch. We do not have to, Doyen replied. Minji has been sending messages. The Resistance wants to build something new. They want our help. 2 years after the barrier fell, the new Galactic Assembly held its first meeting. It was nothing like the Council. Every species had an equal voice. Every world could send representatives. Decisions were made by consensus, not diktat. It was messy, slow, and argumentative. It was also hopeful. Yunji attended as humanity's representative, finally retiring at the age of 344. She had lived to see the stars return to her people. She had lived to see justice for the 17 species who came before. She had lived to see the beginning of something better. Her replacement was young Hannah, born on Mars, who had never seen the barrier, but carried the memory of it in her blood. "What do I say to them?" Hannah asked nervously. "Tell them the truth," Yunji replied. "Tell them that isolation did not destroy us. Tell them that humanity survives by adapting, by learning, by refusing to give up. And tell them that we remember what the Council did, but we choose to build forward instead of looking back in anger." Admiral Doyen stood at the viewport of Station Unity, the new Assembly's headquarters built in neutral space. Ships from 100 species docked peacefully. Former enemies worked together. The galaxy was learning slowly to trust again. Captain Junho's descendant, young Minseo, joined him at the window. "Did we win?" she asked. Doyen thought about that. "We survived. The Council destroyed themselves through their own hubris. We just gave them the opportunity to fall, and now we build something that will not make the same mistakes. We build a galaxy where no species is quarantined for being different, where no civilization is executed for having potential, where everyone has the chance to reach the stars." On distant Tellus, Minji looked up at a sky that was finally free. The Council's ships were gone. The garrison had surrendered. Her people, descendants of a species the Council had tried to erase, were rebuilding with human help and human technology. She thought about the 17 species who had come before humanity, the ones who had not survived their quarantine. They would never see this moment. They would never know that their deaths had not been in vain, that their memory had helped bring down the empire that killed them. But the galaxy would remember. The new Assembly's first law forbade quarantines forever. The second law established a memorial for the lost species. The third law banned any action that judged a civilization's right to exist. Based on the fears of others, 302 years after the barrier rose, humanity had rejoined the galaxy. But they had not rejoined the same galaxy they left. That galaxy had fallen, destroyed by the weight of its own arrogance, collapsed under the burden of its own hubris. In its place, something new was growing. Something better. Something built on the lessons learned from humanity's silence. The Council had tried to cage humanity until they destroyed themselves. Instead, humanity had emerged stronger, had exposed the Council's crimes, and had watched as the weight of those crimes crushed the very empire that committed them. The hubris did not destroy humanity. The hubris destroyed those who thought they had the right to judge who deserved to exist, and from the ashes of that destruction, the galaxy learned the oldest lesson, that caging potential does not eliminate it. It only makes it stronger when it finally breaks free.